Hey guys, Troy from the Do-It-Yourself World and the Off-Grid Project. I've printed out the assembly manual and I'm trying to figure this out. There's a 26-page instruction manual, an assembly manual, with a mechanical looking chart, a parts chart. It looks like it's a parts listing. And I'm going to have to go on their videos to really figure this out properly. I'm sitting here trying to piece this together and figure out how everything goes together. Anyway, yeah, spent extensive time studying on the internet trying to figure this out. There's a coil plate. And there's the disc plates, okay. It's awkward because I'm looking at a black and white diagram and trying to figure this all out. Okay, that's the rotor assemblies. Now I've got the 4 stator assemblies and the 2 end plates. Okay. You really gotta use your head to figure this stuff out. So I'm going to start assembling the framing and the coils to get a feel for this. And I'm going to come in and out with the video as I work, just so I don't waste your time while I'm muttering to myself and trying to read this stuff. Felix? Psst. I have my assistant, Felix the cat, here. He's purring happily, sitting in the box. I have sorted out the parts that I will need right now, and I've taken 6 coils, and I'll get to that in a minute. And I have so I've got the hubs and mounting hardware and the magnet spacers. I've got the framing hardware. I've got the bearings, spacers and hardware, and the coil mounting hardware, coil frames, supports, main frames, magnet assembly, well, rotor assembly. Now let me show you the coils. Let me set the camera down. Something important with assembly of coils is that every coil has to be wound in the same direction, with the start wire in the same position and the end wire in the same position. So what I've done is I've sorted out 6 coils, and to make sure that they're all the same, I've looked and seen the start wire of the coil is in the very innermost part of the coil, the inside, and comes out the side. That's the beginning of the coil. The end of the coil ends up here. Okay, there's a start and end wrapped with a rubber band. It comes out and then wraps around. But then I check, and the coil is wrapped while holding it with the start coil of the start wire on the bottom. The coil is wrapped in a clockwise manner. Okay, and I've checked to make sure start wire on the bottom, clockwise manner. And every one of these coils, start wire in the bottom, clockwise manner. Make sure they're all wrapped the same. This is very, very important when assembling this motor. So now I'm going to start assembling one of the coil sets onto a stator assembly. I've set the coils on my lap because I don't want to have taken off the protective sheet on one side. Set the coils on my lap, and I'm trying to figure out which way to arrange them so that the wires come out neatly from the side of this. And now I'm going to put the mounting screws in place. Okay, there is one coil assembly done. Sorry about the reflection on the window. I had to take off all the protective sheeting, so I set it up on the couch here to protect it. And then I'm going to assemble the rest of these and set them aside. So this is just a matter of putting through a plastic nut and putting on plastic washers and plastic bolt, and putting on plastic nuts and washers. It's a beautiful looking machine, and I've seen negative comments about how you could probably make these cheaper yourself. But most of the comments were for people that don't know what they're talking about, because the parts have a cost regardless, and they're outsourced from a different place anyway. So I would tend to disagree on that in the first place. And the thing is beautifully machined, and if you were to copy the machining, I think you're going to have a major cost as well. So I think it's a good kit, well-designed kit, and beautiful. Okay, I've wound up all the coil sets. So I put the wire on the inside. You can see here, I think you can see the wire is on the inside, so it means it comes out next to the coil and up through the little indentation of the plexiglass. I hope that won't put any strain and wear on the wire with time. The other option was to have the open end of the coil, the wire coming up through the side facing the magnets, which I don't think is a good idea, because if that ever worked itself loose or anything, it could hit a magnet and be ripped off. So I secured it. I don't know if you can see it with the reflection. There, you can see the wires on the inside under the coils, and then coming up and wrapping around the spool. That way I can bring them out and twist tie them down using, I think, these little holes, and secure them safely and firmly on the plexiglass. I think that's the proper way. So there's those. I will do the magnet assemblies next. I'm very nervous about the magnet assemblies, I have to say. To be truly honest, I've never worked with such powerful magnets except for those in a hard drive, and I know they can be very dangerous. But what I'm really nervous about is that I don't want to break anything, because this is expensive stuff. So I'm going to very carefully work with the magnets now and get the rotor assemblies put together. And then I have to go and find some, I have to check the gauge wire, the proper gauge wire, but it's solid wire, single strand solid wire of the proper gauge to connect all the coils together. And then I can go ahead and connect the framing and then the electronics. And then, according to instructions, I have to assemble just the motor first. There's a motor, then there's a generator, and then there's the toroid. So I'm going to do the motor today and try to get it running, and then play with that for a while before I go on with the generator, and then and so on and so on. I'm starting assembly of the rotor. These magnets are crazy strong. I've got them over, baby cat's watching over them for me, and well, you got to be careful, I tell you, when taking these magnets apart. They are powerful. I pulled one off the stack and had it held away 1.5 feet from the stack, and the thing flew out of my hand and jumped into the stack. I'm lucky nothing broke, because at $50 a magnet, I don't want to make a mistake. Powerful things, crazy powerful. So I'm really worried about assembling them into here this close together, because if they jumped 1.5 feet distance through the air, I've got to figure out how to get them in this rotor half and get the other side onto it before they fly out of my hand. So this is very tricky. I can't afford to break anything, so, or my fingers for that matter. So I'm going to go get a compass. I'm going to mark these with the north sides, so I have them marked as I go, and then I don't have to mess with that later on. So that way I'll do it all in one motion. Okay, here's a very simple experiment using a compass. Sorry, I can't see my compass. To identify the north pole of a magnet. The south pole of the compass will be attracted to the north pole of a magnet. So that must be the south pole, because north is pointing at the magnet. Let me get the camera closer. I don't want to destroy my camera. I don't know if the magnets will harm my camera. So if I turn this around, that compass spins fast. The south pole is pointing to this face of the magnet, so this must be north. So I'm going to put a little N with a magic marker on this side. Okay. Now I know that's the north pole of this magnet. Double check it, because we don't want to have any mistakes and confusion later. And I'm getting this from the K&N, I think it is, magnetics site where the magnets come from. So I'm going to put that in a far, far away location, that magnet. And then I'm going to get the other magnet that I assembled previously and bring this over, and the south pole is pointing to this side, so that's north of this magnet. Neatly right N on here. Okay, so I have that. Okay? There's a very simple way to identify it, and that's powerful. That swings that compass around strong, and even at a long distance away, it affects that compass. Very, very powerful magnets. I can feel it pulling at the screw in my floor. Powerfully pulling. These are crazy strong magnets. Really strong magnets. If nothing else, this device is going to be a powerful generator. If nothing else. Felix is still helping. At least he thinks so. I am now working on the, sorry about the glare, I'm working on putting the screws into the rotor assembly. And it's a challenge because the magnets keep wanting to draw the screwdriver into them. So I have to very carefully get the screw into the hole. Now it's not too much strength pulling against me, but there's some strength. There's some definitely some force on there. And then I have to grab the bit and pull it away, or it'll rip it right out of here, because this is a two-piece screwdriver assembly. So I've had it pop out on me a couple times. Hopefully it won't do it while I'm on video, but I just wanted to show you how carefully I have to put these screws in. Also, since this is acrylic, I'm not wrenching it down very hard. Making it snug, but not too snug, because I don't want to break this beautiful acrylic assembly. And then grab that and pull straight up and away. So that's how I'm putting in all the screws, very carefully. I'm putting together the hub assembly for this. Now, I should have put the camera on the other side. One guy on the internet mentioned that you should put the set screws in between magnets. So obviously when you're trying to work with a driver, a metal driver, that you're not going to have trouble with that. And so I'm going to readjust this real quickly to a different hole. Hopefully, hope that it'll realign in between. No, it's not gonna. It's gonna be right over a magnet no matter how I do it. Okay. Well, it was a good thought. In this case, it's going to line up right over a magnet anyway. So there's the hub assembly coming together. Now, I'm not sure these are threaded. But there are lock nuts and washers included. I have to see. Oh, the lockers are supposed to be on one side, and it's going to thread into the other side. I see. Okay. So, the instructions. What you have is this diagram, and it's very tiny. So you have to try to understand what you're looking at on this tiny little diagram. So now I've put the locked washer, yeah, and a normal washer on there, and then I'm going to feed it back through here. Okay, it's a beautiful machine, really beautiful setup here. Really finely machined thing here that he designed. I found out online that the machining work was outsourced, I found out even which company it was outsourced to by researching on the internet, and I checked them out. Now we come around here, I can put this on, and that gets threaded, so this is going to be fun. These get threaded into here. So anyway, I'll feed these all in. I'll get them all together, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, much time has passed, an hour to be precise, and ow, I just pinched my finger. I had to use all of the washers in here because, let me show you with the other hub piece that I have here. The bolts cannot go through. It's supposed to go all the way through one side, through all this, through the plexiglass, and into the other. The problem I ran into is that the threads bottom out. Sorry, my camera's jumping around on me, doing weird stuff. The threads bottom out before the assembly is tight. So when I was feeding this through like this, see, what I ran into is before I was even getting pressure on the lock washers, the thing had bottomed out on the threads here, and I still had the lock washers, and the washers were loose and wobbly. So what I had to do was to even get that much tension, and as you see, they just stick out. Can you see that now? They just stick out, so I barely got tension on them now by using all the washers, 2 normal washers and 2 lock washers for each bolt. And I might even be necessary to put another one in there to get it really tight, because there's no motion in there, no vibration, so I guess it's going to be okay. So I'm going to have to get bolts that are threaded further in order to finish the other assembly. I am happy that I read all the information from that guy that calls himself Scorch, because if I hadn't seen all the things he ran into, and this is the first generation of this device, so you can expect some problems. This was from 2013, so I'm sure they fixed the problem since then.